So we have spec, which we can go in and maybe crank it back up just a little. And the diffuse, we want to try and accentuate these to make the corners stick out a little bit more. So to do that, what I'm thinking off the top of my head is I'll paint in a little bit of highlights to accentuate that corner. So let's go into the color dodge. Let's pick like a tannish, light tannish. And let's pick a brush. So how about something like that. I'm just going to trace this edge. Get some kind of breakup. I'll go ahead and make this one solid black in case I want to erase. I could just paint black right over it. First, I'll just paint over the edges. All the major hard edges I could see. So texturing in a lot of ways can resemble sculpting, as in you add things and you take them away and try to find what you're looking for through quick iteration experimentation. And it's okay to try something and realize that it didn't help at all and it actually made things worse. The faster you can iterate and get to that thing that actually does look good, that's what makes it all worth it. One motto that I have is, the faster you can hurry up and make the mistakes, the sooner you'll get to the good ideas. It just takes patience, experience, and a lot of effort. But if you're persistent, eventually you'll find it. I'd like to paint some in here, but the ambient occlusion seems to be preventing a lot of it. So we'll see if we can get away with it for now. Basically, I'm trying to figure out a way to accentuate those hard edges that are in our normal map. And now I want to grab a dark gray and a white and try and quickly go through and do the same thing, but with a multiply. And make sure you don't get a solid black. Like a deep brown. And it's just a little bit too black. Go something a little less intense. And it's still pretty intense. Try something like that. Trying to add detail in here because it's a little bit flat. Alright, let's try that. Let's check it out. It really does add a lot, and we may need to tone it down a little bit. And this is almost like some old school tricks. The reason why we do this is so we can make these things stand out in a lit environment or even a dramatically lit environment, because you have to almost exaggerate some of the intentions you want in order for it to translate. If you kept it super realistic, it just wouldn't look as good. That can be subjective, but it's just some technique that I use. So if we save this out and just see the before and after. So this is the before. It looked a little flat, I thought. And if we go back into the generic browser and re-import it, you will notice that it didn't do a whole lot, but it did add just a little bit around the corners and stuff. I think that really helped sell it. If you look at the before here, you can see I'm at the unlit and the lit. Now the surface normal map may be a little bit too much as well. So also let's see what happens if we re-import that spec and the normal, but let's change it first. And the rebar looks a little shiny all around, and so does that. So let's change that and then move on. So we want to take a lot of these things we just had done and try to incorporate it into the spec, which are these two. This extra level on the rebar really isn't helping a whole lot. Let's get rid of that. And in this multiply, go ahead and paint a little bit to give a little bit more contrast in the rebar, because it was looking just a little bit too shiny, I thought. And also in the fence. So we'll save that. And in the normal map, a little bit does a lot. So tone this down just a little bit more, and this one won't tone down as well. So hopefully that will still look good. Alright. Just check that out real quick. And I think that looks a whole lot better. And the rebar, it being dark here and still just needs a little bit of work and seems a little bit too smooth, like it needs some more normal information. So I'll just tweak that really quick. Rebar is overall too dark as well. So let's go back in here in the diffuse and let's go to the rebar. Let's go ahead and add an adjustments level on it. Go ahead and up it towards a little bit brighter. And just check the normal map out and see if there's any information there. So there is some information there, but it's just not translating very well. Something we can do is we can just duplicate this, increase it some, which the details are pretty large. So let's undo that and duplicate the smaller one. And that one looks a little bit better on the rebar. So now we just need to get that rebar selection and mask this normal map. So hopefully that helps a little bit. We'll save the normal map and the diffuse, which we have a button, and we'll check that out. And it helps, but now it looks a little bit weird to have it so bright down here. So there's a couple things I'm thinking of that could help that and also add a little bit of extra flavor. So let's go ahead and quickly find the grunge that we made, which is this one, and bring that up. Bring this up above everything. And go ahead and duplicate it. And we will rotate 180 and get rid of my rulers. And we want to kind of add some drip going down here and over on the rebar. So we'll add this. We'll just kind of ignore everything else and just see what might look good. And that looks kind of cool. So we'll go back in here and just fill it with black. And then X and paint in our mask. This is a nice little contact shadow that adds, but this brush isn't the best for this kind of detail. So I'll go ahead and add something a little bit more subtle. And I'll turn off the wink. I'll just move it up a little bit and go back to the mask, paint up as high as I can. Alright, now I kind of like that, so I'm going to duplicate it and bring it to where the other rebar is, which is up here somewhere, but I can't quite remember. Yeah, so it's up here at an angle. I think it's right around here. We want to turn the link back on, put it around here somewhere. Go ahead and apply that, which will just give me the selection. And I'll go ahead and apply these other ones too. Just kind of save. Photoshop files will get really large. Copy this, apply the mask. Now this last one I will put on the rebar itself. Alright, so I'll go ahead and merge all these for now, just to kind of keep things a little bit clean. This is all the rebar gunk. You can see how it helps a little, but it's still very bright right here, and I can't figure out why that particularly is so bright. Also right there. So in this situation, I'm going to go inside 3ds Max and check out the UVs for this object. So it looks like this way going down needs the context shadow, and also over here, this way going down. Let's check it out. So here, just select these, flip horizontal, and get some nice context shadows. And then also over here. And we'll check that out. So that already looks a lot better. And maybe it should be a little bit more bright in the middle, and at the tips. Other than that, the noise in there helps a little bit. So in here, one last thing would be to add a mask and remove just a little bit of from there and from the tip here. And we'll go ahead and brighten this rebar up just a little bit. Save it, re-import, and that looks pretty good for now. So now we can move on to next piece. One last thing is, sometimes at the very end it's a good idea to just get some kind of grungy concrete texture or something, and just kind of throw it over the top and just lightly either multiply it or soft light. The soft light looks pretty good, and go ahead and tone this saturation down a little bit, and we'll go ahead and scale this down just a tad. And you can see the before and after. It just gives a little more breakup on a larger scale. And sometimes it helps and sometimes it doesn't. So let's just see what this looks like if we save it. Go back in and re-import it. So it looks like, kind of like the breakup. It's working, so we'll go ahead and leave it for now. And at the end, if I think of something better, I'll change it to that. Looks pretty good for now. And if you find an angle you like, you can hit Control 1 or Control 2 or Control 3. Basically, it'll set your camera right there. So if I press 1, it'll always jump back to that spot. That's really useful when you find an angle that you like. You press G to hide lights and to bring them back. So we'll go ahead and save and move on to the next thing.